Let's take a closer look at the Black Series 6-inch figure of the Incinerator Trooper.
Varykino, living the Star Wars life.
Hello there, and thanks for visiting the Varykino YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be unboxing the Black Series 6-inch figure of the Incinerator Trooper from the live action series The Mandalorian. I realize that this is a slightly older figure, but I don't know about you, but when something is a little bit harder to find, I am a little bit more hesitant to open it up. And as you can imagine, stormtroopers being the original army builder, every time they hit store shelves, people buy them in multiples, which means if I manage to get my hands on one, I kind of keep it boxed for a little bit because I don't know if I'm going to be able to get any others, so I keep them boxed in case I do decide that I want to keep something special and not take it out. But you know what? My displays are missing a lot of stormtroopers, so I've decided to embark on a little bit of an unboxing series celebrating stormtroopers. So I've got some Black Series, some vintage collection, and a couple of other stormtrooper items that have been stored away, and I've decided that now's the time to open them up and add them to my action figure displays, because all my hero characters need some bad guys to fight off against in my displays. So very, very excited. We've got some really interesting paint details here, some fun accessories. I'm going to have a lot of fun opening this one up, so thank you so much for joining me as I have a little bit of fun opening up my Star Wars toys. So let's take a closer look at the packaging before I get the figure out. We've got this kind of interesting mustard orange color for the Mandalorian. We can see that of the series title stripe here, the Mandalorian, and the character name is also there, Incinerator Trooper, and we've got the Hasbro logo down the bottom there as well. Lovely big window. This is of the slightly older now, modern era Black Series packaging, where we have this angled art down the side. I know Hasbro experimented with the blind box plastic free packaging, and the new era is going to be more squared off, kind of reminiscent of those old black boxes with the red side. I do still like the angled art, but I can understand why they are changing things up a little bit. As you can see, I opened mine up, so this is probably going to end up in storage somewhere, so it's not too bad. But for those of you that like to display them on a shelf sideways, it is really fun if you manage to get all the figures in a series to have this sort of interconnecting art piece across the side. I really like the art for the Flame Trooper. Obviously the small slice is not enough to show the actual flames from his weapon, so he's got it slung over his shoulder here, which I think is a really intimidating pose. You know that this is probably a very heavy weapon and he's got it slung over his shoulder. Very, very cool. We don't get much of the red color because this is more of a black and white tone there, but we can see the art on his helmet and across the chest, and then it goes down into that ombre tone color there of the orange. Looks pretty cool. And then we've got that text at the bottom, Incinerator Trooper. Pretty cool there. So we've got a little bit of an insert there of that same art, focusing mostly on the helmet and the torso armor, and we've got a little bit of a bio for the Incinerator Trooper. Incinerator Trooper armor was exceptionally heat resistant and bore red markings in order to indicate their specialty. So there, just got a little bit of a simple bio. With the color stripe continues on the back, and we can see that this is number 03 from the Mandalorian, so very early in that series. It's kind of fun with the numbering system. You can keep track if you are trying to build a specific series. Say you're trying to get all of the figures of the Mandalorian, it's nice that they are all numbered so you can keep track and, you know, hopefully put them in the right order so you're not having to play a puzzle game putting these all in some sort of order like a jigsaw. We've got a lot of copyright, text, barcodes, all of that kind of technical detail there on the bottom and there. We've got a little bit of a window at the side where we can see that flamethrower weapon in here, and the little bit of the window letting in some light, which is useful for display if you want to put these on a shelf while they are boxed. But now comes the exciting part. I'm going to open this one up and check out all of these cool details. So now I have the figure taken out of the packaging, complete with the accessories. As you can see, the weapon is attached to the figure with this plastic tubing. This is how it came out of the packaging. So because I was being a little bit gentle, it was a little bit tricky to get it out. It took me a little bit longer than say some standard Black Series figures, but there we go, it's out now. So I'm very, very keen to take a closer look at all of these amazing details. So first things first, this is pretty standard Black Series Series Stormtrooper armor from the modern era. This one, as I mentioned earlier, the Incinerator Trooper, is number 3 from the Mandalorian series. Now, alongside it at number 2 is the classic Imperial Stormtrooper. And as best I can tell to my eyes, without knowing, factory variations, there is pretty much identical sculpting and details here between this white one and the one with the red details. The one element that I can see is perhaps a little bit different if I turn them to the side. The Stormtrooper has a bit of a black segment where the front and the back of his chest plates don't quite touch. This black is kind of representing the Under Armour bodysuit there. So if I just put this one down, we can see that on this one, if I move his arm out of the way a little bit, it is fully white under his arm. It's like a white panel. It's not painted black there. So there are some variants of the Stormtrooper armor that just sort of have this white section as opposed to being painted black like on the standard one. But apart from that, and obviously the red paint and some of the accessories, they look pretty similar. I'm seeing lots of similarities with the belt, the leg armor. We'll take a look and see if the chest plate moves like this one does. So yeah, if you enjoy customizing your Black Series figures, this is pretty much the same one as this one, which I thought was kind of fun to check that out. So I'm just going to pop him to the side and we'll get back to the details on this one. So I was curious to see if they simply packaged this attached and whether I can actually disconnect it. So let's take a closer look. Looking at the top of the flamethrower here, that tubing runs in and it's pretty much all one piece here. There's no sort of connector ports or anything there, so it's not going to be disconnected from the weapon itself. And then if I look at the backpack, there's 2 tubes here. This one is fully part of this lower part, but the top one is like a little bit of a port, and I'm just going to give it a gentle tug. Okay, so that one can come out, but this one is fully fused in there. So I think because this backpack component is made in 2 parts, so this is all joined, and when they make it, they've got to connect this in there. It's not really a play feature or anything like that. If I just pop that in there, it goes back in. So unless you're willing to take some scissors or a scalpel or something to this, it is not going to come off. It's kind of permanently attached, but that is, accurate to the figure. They have got basically fuel being pumped from those tanks on the back through to their flamethrower there. So just kind of curious. Yeah, this does feel like you can move it around. It's not affixed to the back plate, which makes sense if this is a simple same component as the Stormtrooper, which doesn't have sort of pegs for attaching backpacks to it. And that is over. It looks like it might, yes, the straps can come off. So I guess if you really want to, it's all one piece. The backpack is attached to the sort of pauldron, the shoulder component here, so which goes around under the neck. So while I can sort of undo that little strap, I'm going to have to like pop the helmet off in order to take everything off. But again, if you like customizing your figures, you can take this black sort of harness and shoulder piece off, and you will be left with a very interesting white and red Stormtrooper, which is kind of fun if you like to build custom armies or do some unique original designs with your figures. So the figure helmet doesn't come off, I don't think I see. No, I don't see a head under there. Generally not with Stormtroopers, but you just got to check these things. The clones generally do. So pretty tidy paint on the helmet. Of course, these are sort of more of the remnant forces, so we've got a little bit more weathering than perhaps we see in other places. There is like perhaps a tiny paint floor here. It's just a little bit darker than the rest of the red paint. But the sort of the scratches along the edges of this section are intentional weathering. And we've got, that's actually not just painted blue, that's textured I can feel that when I run my fingernail over that blue. You can kind of hear it. That's quite textured. Because of course in the original trilogy, the blue sort of tube stripes on the helmets were simply painted or decals. And in the modern era, the costume prop department decided to kind of make that a little bit more of a functioning detail and kind of made it a little bit more akin to like air vents or something like that. So it's actually more of a grill. So it's kind of fun that that has been brought through to the figures as well. That it's not just painted on there. That is a texture detail, which is really fun. And the rest of the paint is pretty clean. I've got a tiny black dot from that chin detail that's just going over to the red. But again, I'm looking at really tiny details, really close up. But overall, the gray, one thing that really throws me off is when the black sort of brow trim is wonky or mispainted. That looks really, it sort of creates the face of the stormtrooper in a way. Sometimes it gives them like a sort of a quizzical look if it's a bit wonky or something like that. So that's nice and straight. I like that. The eyes look tidy. All of the other details are where they should be. We've got tiny little black lines on the gray. This section here is just a tiny bit misaligned to the sort of like indent cutout shape here. But again, I'm looking very, very close up. And it's on the back of the helmet, so I'm not really going to see that. And of course, any variations with paint is unique to my specific figure. You know, we're always going to get those little tiny factory variations. And we've got sort of like this, it's like white weathering here to kind of look like a little bit of scratching on the chin piece there, and on this side it is a slightly stronger white paint. Very, very tiny details. Sorry, I'm trying to get the camera to show it because I'm looking at the paint really close up. But overall, it looks pretty cool. It matches. There is a subtle difference in sort of the, I want to say the finish of the paint from the top stripe and across sort of the nose section and what is here. This looks a little bit more glossy because it's like, I assume it's a decal because it's got some very sort of predefined, designed sort of weathering edges to it. And this is simply covering the whole section. So this is paint and I feel like this is a decal. So there's a very subtle difference in the reds, but it's more about the finish. This is gloss and this has a bit more of a matte finish. But again, that is a really small detail that I'm not really ever going to see once this thing is on my display shelf. I'm looking at it very close up under a strong lighting, just because I like to see the details up close, having a little bit of fun unboxing my toys before I put them on display. The rest of the red paint job on this matches this top trim. So if I show it across the top, we can sort of see the weathering up there. In that it is sort of a gloss, and because of those sort of weathered edges, I am assuming, without being able to confirm watching them manufacture them in the factory, that they are also decals applied rather than the paint used here. So we can see that kind of weathered edging running down all of the components on the back of the hand, all the way up the arm, around that shoulder armor, the chest, around the top of the thighs. We've got that knee plate filled in, of course, on regular stormtroopers. That is plain white. And then we've got a little bit of trim around the bottom of the shins, near the ankles. A little bit on the back. We've got the top of the thighs going all the way around. And nothing that I can see on sort of the back plate. The weathering here kind of stops where the front of the chest armor would usually come along that line. That's where that stops. But we've got lots on the arms, and it's really quite striking. The red really reminds me of sort of the like the shock troopers from episode 3. It's kind of a sinister look. And of course the red suits very well for an incinerator trooper, red and those sort of fire colors. I think is a really good choice. I think it's a better choice than yellow. I don't know why, it just seems like red is a better color for the incinerator trooper than a yellow. And yeah, we've got some really nice black dots on the waist, on those ab buttons there. Really nice, tidy little black dots, because they are recessed. I can just feel those. That is really tidy. Very nice. especially in the sections where there's not a lot of other paint apps going on. It's nice when those are very, very tidy. Very nice there. And then we're just going to take a little look at the harness of this figure. There's like a little really subtle texture, and we can even see like the buckle of this harness is sculpted in there. It very much reminds me of the webbing and buckles that my husband uses to rig his stormtrooper armor on the underside, which is kind of fun seeing that replicated there. We've even got, it's like you can sort of see like the webbing is sort of pinching in on itself going through those shoulder straps, but of course that is just sculpted into the plastic. Little details like that give the appearance of something that is soft or like fabric. We've kind of got like a bit of a nylon webbing harness going on here, so I like those little details. Makes it look a little less like just a strip of plastic across the chest. I like that. And if I turn the head to the side, we can get a little bit more of a look at sort of the shoulder. We always used to call them pauldrons in the Star Wars costuming space. And it's got a subtle kind of wrinkled texture, like leather or pleather, that is kind of wrinkled to form this section here. And we've got a lovely matching red, which matches the helmet pretty well. And then it goes around to the back and joins up at this section with the backpack. So unfortunately I can't sort of take those two off. There isn't a strap underneath. It does connect to the backpack. And there's like a little bit here that I am pretty sure this is solidly and permanently attached to the back plate. I can't take this off and leave the back plate to maybe customize into like a red sand trooper or something like that back in the day. And we've got a fun red Imperial symbol there on that back canister. Very, very cool. Nice and tidy. Overall, I really like the paint. Just those two tiny little weathering marks, but because of the sort of the intentional weathering to the paint job, you can get away with some inconsistencies and little irregularities with the paint there. It all just kind of glosses to look like weathering. There is a tiny little black mark on the knee. Again, so tiny. It's just there on the white that just sort of caught my eye. So let's take a closer look at the articulation of this figure, because it is pretty much the same as that number 2. It's classic Stormtrooper that I showed before, so I'm expecting pretty much the same articulation. Let's have a look. I'm going to start off with his arms. It's very tight. I don't think that is actually going to go up. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's very tight up there. His arm's not going to go up. The shoulder is just hitting just about everything up here. That white shoulder bell is hitting the shoulder strap there, so I can't get that one to go. Can I get it to go up? Oh, there we go. Okay. The shoulder bell is kind of rubbery, so there is a little bit of flex. I just wasn't sure how much tension I could put on that. But yes, I could, with a little bit of force, get that one up there. Generally speaking, I don't put my figure's arms up that high, but just in case you want to do some interesting poses. And I like, particularly with Stormtroopers, I find the articulation really blends well into that sort of ribbed undersuit. So we've got a little bit here at the elbows. And of course, black just does a good job of hiding joins as well. The details just don't stand out quite as much as they do on lighter colors. So you can just sort of see the gloss and flat finish of that hinge there against the sculpted rib of the undersuit. Pretty good hand there. We've got an interesting sort of grip because we've got a pretty hefty weapon still dangling here. How well they hold this is going to be really interesting to test out. And I'm probably going to have to spend a little bit of time playing around with some poses, because this is going to sort of lever off that weapon. We've got a sort of a trigger finger grip on the other hand. And the same sort of articulation here. We've got a little bit of tiny bit of sort of side to side here, very minimal. Pretty much the same sort of, oh, we can get it that quite close in. I like that. It's always sometimes awkward when figures can't really bring their arms straight in close to the body. I'm thinking in particular of the characters that I want to pose using a two-handed grip on their lightsaber, and they can't sort of get their hands together at the front of their body to grip the same lightsaber hilt. Let's have a look, see if I can get this arm all the way up. Oh, that one clicked. It does get up there, but it's kind of pretty much hidden under this. I'm probably not going to do that. Ooh, very stiff. There we go. Okay, and oh, I hadn't noticed that before. We've got white. Yeah, this bit's a decal because we've got that weathering there. This section, because it's on the sort of recessed sort of ladder texture on the outer ridge of the forearm, because that is not a flat surface, they've painted that stripe, and to do the weathered edges, they've used paint there. White paint to kind of cut in on the red. And I assume the other side is the same. Yes, that was on the underside of the arms. I didn't see that straight away. That's kind of interesting. So we've got a little bit of difference here of the two reds with the sort of sticker application and the painted application like we do here. But to be honest, my eyes didn't catch that at first, so I guess that's a pretty good color match. And it's on the underside, so it already looks a little darker just from shading there. Okay, so we've got, yep, torso articulation matching very well with the Stormtrooper armor underneath the chest plate, between that and the ab plate. The helmet is got, yeah, we can look up and down, side to side, all the way around, pretty usual. So let's take a look. So if you've ever worn Stormtrooper armor, you'll know how much it can impact your freedom of movement, particularly around the legs. So let's see how much it's going to impact an action figure. So sometimes these figures can rotate, yeah, at the upper thigh, so we can kind of get the point at the top of the thigh armor around to the side and out of the way, because if it's at the front, it hits here and just stops from moving, so we only get like the legs up a little bit. But if I'm going to rotate it to the side a little bit, I can get the leg up much higher. It's kind of a pose I don't really need, particularly for Stormtroopers. I like my Stormtroopers standing up, but if you want to perhaps put them in a kneeling position or have them kind of being blasted backwards, then you'll need a little bit more posability in that lower limb. And that one's a little bit more stiff, but we can do the same there. And again, that rotation line is hidden really well under the thigh armor there. I can't even see it. It's really nice when they use the Stormtrooper armor to hide everything. And again, that black ridged sort of undersuit sculpting is really hiding the articulation. We can just make it out here where we can see the sort of lines showing us where the hinges are. And let's, oh, that's nice and easy. So getting that one out of the way, we can see the knees are a little bit more exposed when we bend the lower legs back, but it's not the worst I've seen. You can see sometimes the sculpting there becomes a little bit misaligned, but overall, I think that's a pretty good job, and it completely disappears when I put those knees back. And then we've got a little bit of articulation down at the ankles. Because he's got a little bit of a back heavy canister here, he's got a heavy weapon, I'm hoping that he's going to be fairly sturdy through the legs, so I can get just a little bit of sort of counterbalance for this weight. I don't like really loose lower joints because then they start tipping over, particularly if they've got extra weight. So I'm just going to rotate his thighs back because I want him to be a little bit more straight-legged. So I'm putting him down here for a minute so we can take a closer look at the weapon here. We've got some really cool details here. It is not a flat black, it's kind of a very subtly speckled gray. And we've got some really fine detail there. We've sort of got the little holes here. We've kind of got like the emitters where you're going to get like sort of like the flames being emitted to sort of set fire to the fuel. to create the flamethrower effect. And this looks like a pretty good sized grip here. I'm hoping he's going to hold it pretty well. Yeah. Okay, so let's get a pose going. So because the tubes are over the top, that's the way I'm just going to put it for now. And let's see. Just going to go in from the top. And he's got some very rigid fingers. So I'm hoping. No, it's not going to go in that way. Okay, let's see if I can wriggle this in. One thing about, oh, there we go. Oh, okay. The rotation of hands sometimes gets in the way of like trying to put a weapon in their hands. The hands just want to move. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. And we'll see if he's got a pretty good hand, but the underside of this weapon is just so thick. I don't know, it's just, I don't think this hand grip is going to fit anywhere on here. So I think it's just kind of be gesturing like he's holding it. I can kind of like, I don't know if I can actually, maybe, let's see. I really want him to hold it, but I don't know if I can get his thumb around that section. Oh, no, okay, I'm gonna move his thumb, I think, in a slightly awkward position. So I'm just gonna rest it for now. And perhaps I will spend some time later. If I do manage to get him to hold it, I will put a picture in when I am finessing the pose to put this one on display. So let's see how well he's gonna stand now that I've got this out. Okay, this is looking cool. Kind of got a little bit of the two-handed thing. You can see if I point it this way, he's not really holding it. So I'm probably going to face him this way. We'll just get rid of that issue by using a bit of perspective there. So it looks like his hand is on there. So we can see that this one has sort of like an attachment point and those two sort of like little fiery bits here. And so I am assuming we're going to have a little bit of a notch here on the attachment point. It looks like we've got two cutouts here and then sort of a peg hole here. But I really do like the ombre and the sculpting here. Looking at this out of the box, because it was tucked in the back, it looks like we have a very small black fleck that is entombed in the plastic. You can kind of see it, probably a bit better from this side. There is a little black fleck kind of floating in there. So nothing much I can do about that. Perhaps it is a bit of ash that is being caught in the flame. But I like the ombre. I like the sculpting. Possibly we'll have to have a play and see which way round this attachment point is going to have a click. I feel like it's going to go this way based on the orientation of the attachment point. So I'm going to get this one on. And it might fall out of his hand while I do that, because this is going to be interesting to see how well this is going to go on. Ooh, okay, that wasn't too bad. And oh, now he's very going to tip over. Okay, let's see. Is he going to need a stand? Ooh, I think I can do it. Ooh, okay, he's very... Okay, if you're going to pose him like this, you might want to put him on a stand because he's kind of rocking when I let him go, but he can actually balance, if you can see that. Wow, that is a lot of plastic that he is able to balance there. And he's actually not tipped back as far as I thought he might be for this much plastic. It's not the heaviest accessory, but that is just, there's only so much plastic that you can do to stick it out that far. It's going to have its own natural weight. And to be honest, the attachment point actually looks pretty good. I thought it might look a little bit like, you know, those sort of action play features that you see more on children's toys. This is pretty good. I know the sort of the special effects attachments are not going to be for everybody, but I'm kind of nostalgic about it. They did this a lot, particularly in the Saga collection around the Phantom Menace. I was always sticking those sort of deflector effects on my Jedi lightsabers from sort of like Geonosian Arena and stuff like that. I thought that they were really cool, and they sort of gave a little bit more sort of action to my action figure displays, because of course action figures right there in the name. I like the pose. This looks really cool. Yeah, wow. I thought I might be having a bit of a hard time trying to get this to display. There is a little bit of finessing to be had with the sort of angle of it. Looks a little bit better from the front, and yeah, he's gonna have, now see, that could be an issue. He's kind of already wanting to droop it down a little bit. I'm gonna have to play around with it to kind of wedge the back end of the weapons kind of against his body, so that it kind of doesn't just want to tip straight down, because I think this looks cool, but as to whether this is going to be a long-term display option, I don't know. You might end up with it kind of basically pointing like he's shooting Grogu on the ground or something, or setting fire to something low down, because I don't know if this will just slowly tip over time. It's impressive that I can actually get it to stand like this. I was a little bit doubtful about whether that was going to work, but that's pretty cool. And I just like the sculpting of that. That's pretty cool. Wow. Yeah. See, if I ever move it, I can feel how much he wants to tip forward. But to be honest, this is cool. I had my doubts. You know, I've had this thing in its box and I'm like, I don't want to be one of those people that's like, it looks cool in the box, no, but I should get it out and add it to my collection, and then find that, oh, it's really awkward when you take it out of the box because it's really hard to pose, it looks a little bit clunky, and I probably should have kept it in the box. Hence why I still had this one in the box all of this time. You know, number 3 is going back a little bit in the Mandalorian Black Series line, but I am really glad I got it out. I think this is really quite cool. There's so much going on here. I need like a little Grogu to like pose with them. But yeah, now I can sort of like start fleshing out my Imperial squad. I get this one. This one's got slightly loose legs. That looks, yeah. See, this is why people army build, isn't it? It starts to look really cool when you get all those Imperials all lined up. Looks pretty cool. I need a Moff Gideon now, don't I? To add to my figure display. I'm having a lot of fun unboxing my Black Series. So there we go. This is pretty cool. So I'll probably put some posed still pictures. Once I've finished unboxing, I spend a little bit of time trying to see if I can find the best pose. So after I've had a little bit of playtime figuring out poses and different things, if I can get that hand to hold it a little bit better, I'll put the shots in here now. I spent just a couple of minutes trying out some pose options, and I think this is my favorite one here. I cannot get his left hand to open wide enough to grip the underside of the flamethrower. I really wish that for specific figures, Hasbro sculpted more dedicated hands. A lot of them do tend to be the same hand pose, like having trigger fingers on characters that only ever we see them holding lightsabers and things like that. This one I think would have been better to have a slightly wider grip, because the two hands, the two arm joints would really help holding this up. I've kind of got it propped on to the edge here, so it is making contact, but it's not really holding it. But at least because of that sort of extra support from his left arm, I can get a little bit of an upward direction here, which I think just looks really cool. And he actually balances fairly well, not even really tipped back too much. So awesome figure. I think this looks really cool. As to whether he's going to stand like this for long on my shelf, who knows? Sometimes walking past bookshelves and things, just a little jostle is enough to send them going over. He might need a stand. He might just, after a while, end up having to sort of rest the flames on the floor. Time will tell, but I'm super excited to see this accessory all constructed, all posed. I think it looks amazing. The bright red colors really stand out. I wish I'd been able to get a few of these figures. Who knows? Maybe we'll see some reissue at some point, especially with Stormtroopers. Hasbro can just keep making them, and they will always sell, especially since we have this fantastic modern era sculpt for the Black Series line. And I had so much fun unboxing and checking out all of the features. I also have the vintage collection one that I'm going to have to open up very soon, because as you can see, this one also has a flame effect in there as well. It is just a fun design from the Mandalorian, so I'll be opening this one up on the channel in the near future as well. But for now, Thank you so much for watching and hanging out while I have a little bit of fun opening up some of my Star Wars toys. I know this was a longer one. There was a lot to go over here with a really unique and interesting accessory there. Lots of stuff to go over and see how it differs to some of the other Black Series that I have in my collection. So thank you so much for hanging out with me while I have fun opening up my Star Wars toys. I'll have some other Black Series figures and our Black Series unboxing playlist linked down below if you want to see more. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going through opening up more Stormtrooper figures from the Black Series line, vintage collection, and a couple of other special items thrown in there coming up very soon. So do please subscribe if you enjoy unboxing Star Wars toys like I do. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you in the next video, and as always, may the Force be with you.
If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.